Welcome to Unboxed. I'm your host, Connie Nam, the founder of Astrid&Miyu. In these conversations, I speak to the founders of some of the most innovative, bold, and exciting businesses to discover the person behind the brand and what it took for them to build their empires. I'm here with the man who believes bad eyesight is a blessing. I'm here with the founder of Cubits, Tom Broughton. He began collecting vintage glasses and learned the art of making glasses. And now he has 16 stores across the UK, which is a successful business. He's also a great friend of mine. We share our highs and lows of being a founder.
You get nervous about it, you put everything into it, you pitch to them, and then they just ghost you. But to me, like, glasses are such an indelible part of who somebody is. Like, when I think of Jarvis Cocker, I think of his glasses. I applied to go on Dragon's Den, they got that desperate.
This episode is sponsored by Payhawk. Growing a business from a startup to a scale-up comes with many challenges. One way to solve this is to introduce effective systems at the right time. Payhawk, a corporate card and expenses management solution for scale-ups, have literally transformed many lives at Astrid&Miyu since implementing earlier this year. To simplify, Payhawk combines company cards, reimbursable expenses, accounts payable, and seamless accounting software integrations into a single product that can be used globally. In this episode, Tom and I are talking about our growing pains. Both businesses, similar in size, have grown tremendously through physical retail. With many retail branches, aligning spending have been a massive roadblock for my teams. With Payhawk, we were able to simplify our expenses processes and at the same time able to decentralize spending and give full autonomy to our team leaders. Here are some key highlights of the software. First, Payhawk allows you to improve cash flow control across multiple departments and currencies by visualizing current funds versus upcoming spend via the group dashboard. Second, you can also choose to tailor workflows to accommodate specific requirements. For example, assign designated spend approvers at group or department level. This was an important feature for us as our org chart was getting more complex with international subsidiaries and expanding departments. Third, Payhawk has the best-in-class direct integrations with finance software and ERP such as Xero, which we use, or NetSuite, which was a huge draw for us, as we did not have dedicated resources to integrate and manage all of our systems naturally as a small business. If you would like to find out more, schedule a demo using the link in the show notes, and be sure to tell them you came from the Unboxed podcast to receive a 20% discount. Tom, thank you so much for joining me. Can we start by telling everyone about yourself, how you grew up, your personal stories, as well as about Cubits, the brand?
Yeah, of course. So I'm 41 years old. I was born in Leicester in the East Midlands. I had a pretty standard like upbringing. I think probably the thing that's probably most relevant is when I was like 14 or 15, I started wearing glasses, which at the time I didn't know was going to lead me on this path. But I think looking back, I think I realised that when I started wearing glasses, it was when I was becoming confident who I was as a person, as a sort of 14, 15-year-old. And I think so. And
Was
also,
it because of the glasses, or
Or to be
or
honest,
it just
like,
coincided?
well, I think because of the age I was at the time, and a lot of the things I was into, and when would this been, like 1995, a long time ago. But I was really getting into music, and all of the musicians that I liked wore glasses. So I was really into the Smiths, and Morrissey wore glasses, and then like I got into Pulp and Jarvis Cocker, all these amazing glasses. And sort of my late teens, early 20s, I really got into glasses.
Oh, interesting. So you kind of found your style role model. the
Yeah,
glasses.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and I was sort of, also if you turn up at school in a pair of glasses, like everyone like laughs at you, right? It becomes
Do
part of your like identity. And so as a 14, 15-year-old, I was like, the one of probably 2 or 3 kids in like class that wore glasses. But I really enjoyed it. And I think that kind of carried on for, I guess the rest of my upbringing. And then as I moved into, then like got a, proper job when I was in my 20s, I always harbored this ambition of like starting a glasses company. But for a long time, it was just as a hobby, really. And,
Oh, that's so interesting. So was it entrepreneurship or glasses that drew you into founding
Glasses.
Cubits? That's so interesting.
Yeah. So I did, like, honestly, I would have, I always thought that I'd like to do something with glasses, but I just thought it would be like a hobby that I'd do like in the evenings or at the weekends. I didn't think it would ever become a business.
So where did the inspiration of Cubits come from? Obviously, like your, upbringing, 14, 15-year-old wearing glasses, being confident, but what else inspired you to start this as a business?
Well, like, I honestly think because like, so I'd see people like, Jarvis Cocker, like on Top of the Pops or whatever, wearing these like amazing frames, really thick, bold. They were part of it, felt like an extension of his personality. And I thought that was super cool. And then I would go into like, a high street optician and I'd be like, there's such a mismatch here. There isn't like, where are the glasses for people that want to wear glasses? See, you go into these high street opticians, it'd all be like tiny little thin glasses or wire frames or rimless. And they all seemed to be like providing glasses for people that didn't want to wear glasses. And so it wasn't until I guess I was like in my early 20s that I discovered a couple of brands that I thought were amazing. There's a brand called Cutler and Gross, Oliver Goldsmith, but like they were so niche and nobody knew about them. And so I think as time went on, I just realized that there was a bit of a like, where were the glasses brands for people that want to wear glasses? And also if you can make them, I think the problem with a lot of the brands that I really liked, they were like really exclusive. I remember going so I moved to London when I was in my early 20s to get a job. And then I remember going to, one of the kind of like really high end stores over in Knightsbridge. And, I walked in, I could just tell they were like, what are you doing here? You're not welcome here. You don't have enough money to shop here. And I was just like, well, yeah, it seems that there's a real opportunity to be, a really nice glasses brand for people that care about wearing glasses that is also, equitable and open and like, sort of doesn't take itself too seriously. There's a weird thing about like a lot of glasses brands. I mean, they're a funny thing, right? Because they're a medical product. They're like this weird, you wear them because you have some sort of like optical deficiency. And yet a lot of the high-end brands sell this kind of weird kind of faux fashion that never really, it's lots of kind of,
Yeah, it's also owned by one company, right?
Yeah, Luxottica, exactly.
Which is really strange.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting product, but like, in my 20s, there was never really a brand, other than those ones that first kind of got me excited, that really like spoke to me.
Yeah. It's so interesting. There's so much parallel between how you started Cubits and how I started Astrid&Miyu, because that was my whole pain point. I couldn't, find anything that I really liked where people didn't look down on me, where, like you can go clubbing and it doesn't turn green and it just like doesn't break. And that was the inspiration behind Astrid&Miyu.
Yeah. And I guess we were doing it at like the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Like around the same age, like everything. Yeah,
exactly.
So there's a lot of parallel, and I want to make sure that it's diverse, inclusive, everything, the whole ethos. Yeah, exactly. I love it. Was there an event that defined who you are?
I mean, I don't think there was like a particular like event. I mean, I think for me it was always like growing up in Leicester. Like when was I going to leave like Leicester? Because I mean, it's like it's a fine city, but like I always just wanted to kind of get away and kind of work out who I like was going to be. And to be honest, I still don't really know, but like, I spent a long time, sort of getting out of Leicester, and then I moved to like Nottingham and did a degree, and then I moved to London to get a job, but like I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I spent like 10 years just trying to work out what I wanted to do, and then started Cubits as a side project, and like it was, for the first 2 or year and a half, I ran it as like a side project, so I had a proper job.
Yeah. What did you do in what was your proper job before
I did
Cubits?
I did all sorts of stuff. My last job before Cubits was I was doing work for Spotify. I did like all sorts of stuff. Like I worked in like children's television and worked for like telecoms companies and like lots of like little projects. Because I was trying to work out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I still don't really know what I want to do when I grow up.
So you were kind of in different functions in different industries. But a lot of them in media.
A lot of that stuff, But I think I really like variety. It's one of the good things about, I guess, starting a business, right? Because you're forced to embrace variety.
Yes, and you need to do everything. You need to be jack of all trades, especially when resources are scarce.
Yeah.
So how did you start this as your, I guess, side hustle for the first 2 years?
So
did you put your own money in?
Yeah.
How did you go about finding your suppliers? Everything.
Well, so I spent like a few years saving up the money. So probably over sort of, I don't know, 6-7 years.
Was that deliberate? Because you wanted to start this,
I wanted to start something. Yeah. And like back then, I had a business partner. Well, he was someone I worked with when I worked at Deloitte, and the two of us were like pooling our like resource. We're putting a certain amount into this bank account every month. Then his sort of life circumstances changed, and he was no longer to be part of it. So I ended up sort of buying out his share. And then used that to start Cubits. And like
What happened to him? Do you mind me asking?
He had
Or-
like 4 kids, and like
Oh, wow.
I think, and he's quite a lot older than me, and I just think like he just had a different
Yeah.
entrepreneurship's hard, right? And it's
Yes,
and like,
it is hard. You need to be 100% committed. And I think, I mean, one thing that I find in a lot of founders is co-founder dynamics is very, very tricky. And you need to be at the right kind of stage, same stage, like in fact, but you need to have completely different skill sets.
Yeah. Well, I remember for him, he had a family to support. I was, living on my own in King's Cross, and could live pretty frugally. And he basically said, like, I can't commit. I need to keep working. I can't commit to this. It just doesn't work if you're not both in it together.
Yeah. Which is understandable from his point of view.
Yeah. And so then anyway, we started, and I think I'm trying to remember the exact, but I think I'd raised about £67,000, which had raised over like 6-7 years, and then managed to kind of spend it all in about 3 months, I think.
Oh, wow. How did you raise that money?
I was just putting money away every month.
Yeah. Oh, like raise, like self-funded.
Yeah. And it's just like, at that point was not not very nice, to be honest. And I look, and like at the time, I couldn't believe that I'd like spent like that so much money in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I think, you don't realize, do you, that how much everything's so expensive. You build a website and it's X
everything
amount,
costs money.
And then you trademark a name and it's $3,000. And
Where did you spend all that money, by the way?
A lot of it was on building a website, actually, which is why it's in my head. I think we spent like $20,000 on building a website, which didn't really work.
Wow, that's a lot at that time.
Yeah.
I spent £500.
Really?
I mean, mind you, it crashed all the time, but initially it doesn't matter, right? Because no one comes in except for yourself and your mom.
Yeah. But yeah, that was pretty bad. That was pretty difficult. You'll know as well, it's not just that you've lost your life savings. It's also that it's so tied into your sense of sort of self and purpose and your ego as well.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
like you're going to all of your friends who you've been going on about for this thing you're going to start for ages, and it's like, it's going really badly. I've spent all my money.
I mean, it's your everything.
Yeah,
even
yeah.
now, right? Do you feel that even now?
Yeah.
Or has it
completely.
evolved a little bit?
No, it's even now.
Yeah, because it's your everything.
Yeah, I mean, I still get, if we get like a bad review.
Yeah,
still,
I think like a lot of the things that people wouldn't be able to empathize because they think, oh, you have a successful business, like why are you so hung up? I think for a founder, it's our life. We put all our savings in and all our time and money. And I mean, like the opportunity cost, right?
Yeah.
Of working for someone else and making a lot more money.
Yeah. No, it's a funny relationship.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We talked a little bit about your early years, and you decided very early on to open brick and mortars. Can you tell me about the thought process and how you opened that? Did you need funding? How did you go about it?
Yeah, so we started we launched, for the first year we're online. So we launched on the 25th of October 2023. So we're going to be 10 years old this year. But to be honest, I always wanted to open a store. The only reason I didn't because I couldn't afford it, because I'd spent all the money on websites and trademarking and whatnot.
I don't think you could have opened a store with 60 grand anyways, right?
Well, I was so like terrified by it, but like to be honest, I always wanted to, just because it's such glasses are such a physical, individual, personal product.
Absolutely.
Like, and also I didn't want like the store. The idea was not. It's not just a place where you put stuff on a shelf and sell it. It's like we offer eye examinations and bespoke services and consultations and repairs and all of these services on site, which were really hard to like replicate online. So I always wanted to, but couldn't afford it. And to be honest, like so for the first sort of 6 months, we ran as a pretty unsuccessful e-commerce business. We were probably selling like 1 frame a day on average.
That's not too bad.
It's better than none. And like literally it was like, we're running out of my flat, cycling around London with like taking people's pupillary distance and adjusting frames on their front doorstep and all that kind of stuff.
How did people find out about you?
I honestly
the people that were buying.
When we launched the website, someone just bought a frame that day, and I don't really. I've not worked out if my mum or my mum's friend or something.
Oh,
but like,
okay.
But we did like quite early on. Had an interview on like Monocle Radio.
Yeah.
And we got quite a lot of stuff off the back of that. And then it just sort of like, I wouldn't say grew. It maybe grew to like selling 2 frames a day. And then we were like, by this point we're basically bankrupt.
Were you doing any wholesale or like publicity?
Well, no. Well, so what happened was we were like, I was like to Joe, who was our first employee, I was like, okay, well, we're fucked. What are we going to do? We need to do something. So we're like, well, let's try and do some wholesale. And we were like, we made a little list of brands that we liked. And the first one on the list was a brand called Albam, like a menswear brand, that had a store on Upper
Yeah.
Street. And I got on my bike, cycled over, knocked on the door, and was like, it'd be really nice if you could stock us. And I met the founder, Alistair, who we had a chat, and he was like, yeah, that's fine.
Is that where Gary found you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like that moment sort of changed everything. So we ended up going to that store, and then Gary, who became our seed investor for both of us,
Yes.
he came into the album and bought a pair, and then sent us an email like out of the blue saying, I'm looking to invest in local businesses. I really like your product. Do you fancy? I was looking at the email the other day, actually. It's kind of mad, really. So I ended up meeting him on someplace on the Caledonian Road.
Both of you got really lucky, didn't you?
Yeah,
Gary's obviously an amazing investor for us and you, and like you're such a great business.
But it's been but before that, I'd been trying to get money, like raise money for 6 months, and it had just been like just rejection after rejection, and like no, we could go to those like pitch events where you're like pitching in front of 30 investors, the sort of Dragon's Den-y things, and it was just like. But to be honest, the thing I found so demoralizing was not the rejection; it was the nothing. When you just go and pitch to people, and you'd get you get nervous about it, and you put everything into it, and you pitch to them, and then they just ghost you. It'll be like had a lot of ghosting.
I think a lot of investors are not that smart. They have a herd mentality.
Oh,
They're
100%.
very momentum driven. So if you have like one or two investors who are very excited, everyone else just wants to invest. And I think
completely.
Like Gary doesn't really ride on that momentum. He's a very smart investor. He knows what a good business is.
Yeah, completely. So that to be honest, that we were literally within a few months, over many months of like the business going under, like But it was that week going into like album that sort of changed everything really. Yeah. And then Gary invested. He invested £100,000, which allowed us to, and we put that towards like half of that or 40% of that went to opening our first store.
Yeah, that's amazing. Such an amazing story. And you mentioned Joe, who's your first employee. When did you get him on board? Because I know the first employee. Like it is so important. Sarah, our marketing director, has been with me for 11 years, and she's like amazing. I know Joe's like the same for you. Can you tell me a bit about that process and how his role evolved, how your relationship evolved?
Yeah, so Joe, I've known Joe since he was 10 years old, I think. So he went to school with my brother. He was my brother's best friend growing up. And we always got on really well. He then moved to London in probably like 2011, maybe 10, 11, and was like working in a pub, pulling pints and trying to work out what he wanted to do. And I just said to him, well, this glasses thing that I've been banging on about for ages, do you fancy coming and like helping me? And I don't know what your role would be, but I know I just need some help. So he originally started as an intern. I think he was doing like 2 or 3 days a week. Then it became 5 days. Then he had a proper job. I can't remember what his job was at the beginning. It's basically Joe's done everything, every single part of like the process, glazing, production, customer service, operations, retail, like literally finance, like every single part of it. And now, I don't actually know what his job title is now. Now he's looking after like all customer experience.
Yeah.
But he's done everything. And like, if it wasn't for Joe, like Cubits wouldn't exist. Like, not just because he's so brilliant at his job, but also he's just, and especially if you're kind of solo founders, he becomes your foil. Yeah. And he's like my voice of reason. Yep. When Joe says to me, Tom, can we go and have a pint? I'm like, oh no, what have I done? But he's always right. He's always like, he holds me to account. Like, and we've worked together now for 11 years, and it's like, I'd be lost without Joe.
Joe is your Sarah. Sarah's my Joe. Yeah.
And like, I guess I'm sure you're the same, right? Especially.
I mean, I think of Sarah as a partner, not an employee. She's really helped me, and she's filled the gaps everywhere. And she has all the strength that I don't have. She can really like smooth things out for me. Yeah. And I learn so much from her every day.
And it's also amazing just seeing how, like, like I say, I've known Joe since he was 10. I started working with him when he was 22, when he had no idea what he wanted to do, and he was a bit lost. And now he's like, 34 is he? 35, and he's like married and got a beautiful kid, and is like a perfect dad and has this love, and it's like amazing seeing him kind of
he's
blossom
really
into,
grown.
He's incredible.
You've seen all of that. Same here. Like Sarah, I hired Sarah when she was 24, and she was the smartest 24-year-old out there. She joined me as an assistant, and then quickly she became the marketing manager, and now
Yeah.
she's the marketing director. And she started off doing everything I didn't fancy doing, going to the post office and like uploading everything on the website and doing wholesale as well as retail, everything. So she knows the business inside out.
It's incredible. It's amazing. We're so lucky, right, to
Yeah,
have that.
yeah. And I think that's one thing that people don't talk about. Like
Yeah.
founders don't give enough credit to those early employees who were willing to do everything.
Yeah, completely
And like,
agree.
you know, yeah, like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
During the early years, what were you given any good advice that you can remember? What was the best advice that you were given?
I remember getting in touch with, so when we were in a complete nadir, and I was like just desperate I just like trying everything. So obviously it worked going to album, but like I did all sorts. I mean, I applied to go on Dragon's Den. It got that desperate.
Did you get accepted?
Yeah, but they got in touch with me like a year later. And I was like,
too
"Oh,
late.
too late.
Yeah.
But I remember one day getting it. I was just like, I need to, just want to speak to people who've been through this before. So I like Googled like British entrepreneurs, and it came up with a few. And I just started guessing their email addresses to see. And there was a bloke, the shirt company, Charles Tyrrett, bloke who started that called Nick Wheeler. And I just guessed his address and emailed him. And he replied in about 5 minutes. And I was like, I wasn't expecting him to reply. So I was like, I didn't know what to reply with. And I was like, oh, it'd just be really nice to get your advice. And he says, yeah, cool, just come over. And I was like, what, now? And he was like, yeah. So I cycled over to their offices down on on South Bank. And he was amazing. Yeah, he gave me so much time. And he just said to me, like, well, first it was encouragement in itself that someone had replied to me. But I remember him just saying, what was the phrase he used? It was like, don't be the tortoise, not the hare, was what he said to me. He was just like, it just takes a long time and people want to rush everything. And, the world is all the stories that you read are all about how this place is, they've grown 10,000% in a year and they've become a unicorn in 2 years. And that's how like everyone talks about it. But it's like, actually, it just takes a long time. And all the best brands, they don't, I think he talked about they have the deepest roots rather than the highest trees or something like that. And like,
that's such good insight. That's so true.
And it is so true. And also it gave me like permission to go slowly, which I didn't think I had to. I thought you've got to be completely, but actually just being like, okay, no, I'm going to take a bit of time getting this right was like incredibly helpful. And so, he also said never take investment from anybody, which it was a bit too late because I think I'd taken investment.
You know what? I did meet Nick as well, and he gave me the same advice. Not the go slow bit, but don't take an investment.
Yeah.
Keep 100%.
Yeah, and that's what he's done, right? And he's grown his business.
Yeah. I mean, if I could afford to, I would have.
Yeah.
But then, like, I had great investors, and Gary actually gave me similar advice when he invested. He's like, make sure you keep control of the business.
Yeah, well, I remember Gary said, like, sell as little as your equity to me as you can.
Such great advice, isn't it?
And again, how lucky we were to speak to people that would be so like honest and have our back, really.
Yeah,
it
and
wasn't
so
in their
empowering
financial
to
incentive.
founders, right? Because that's not what the landscape looks like. It looks like raising whatever money at whatever valuation. That's kind of become a trophy for a lot of founders.
Yeah, completely. And him just saying that, Nick, it just allowed you to just think the world in a slightly more lateral way.
Yeah, and it's coming from a successful entrepreneur, so you listen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We just talked about the best advice you were given. What would you tell your younger self in the early years, knowing what you know now?
Gosh, that is a very good question. I think at the beginning, I used to, I would say it's like fine to make mistakes. I think like the way the education system works, you're always told there's like right and wrong, right? And like, you scored it at the end of a year and you do the whole examination system and university system is all about this kind of binary right and wrong. Yeah. Then you suddenly start like...
And you beat people by a margin, right?
Yeah,
by being
exactly,
a little more perfect.
Exactly. And so that kind of, when we were all starting, I was like, I thought that there'd be a right way to do stuff. And you realize it's just chasms of grey. And it's like, and also being wrong is, good because you learn from it. And it's like, I tell my 31-year-old self, don't fret about making a wrong decision. It's often better to make a decision and get it wrong than to make no decision.
Yeah, because you learn from it.
Yeah, because you just get paralyzed otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's like everything. Like you've got which, I don't know, law firm to do your copyright things with, or what color to do your font
Yeah.
type or with, or like what, you know, where to put a margin on a website, or like you just get like completely overwhelmed. So you just got to like just boss through it and come back to it later.
Yeah. So what was the biggest mistake and lessons learned?
Oh God, I mean, there's so many mistakes. I can't like the single. I mean, we've made so many big ones. I mean, I would say like hiring the wrong people is like a constant.
Yeah.
Slowly getting.
That's the biggest risk, isn't it?
Well, you just realise like, well, I made all the classic cliched naive mistakes of like hiring people that were too like senior or maybe too experienced, thinking they're going to solve all my problems, and they were, you know, invariably a disaster and a nightmare.
Yeah.
And actually, if you really hire the wrong person, it can set you back years. It can cause so much damage.
Absolutely. Because
can
they can
change the
come with, especially when they come with egos, right?
Yeah.
And then you end up listening to them, and then like they don't know the full context.
Yeah, that was, it was, you know, obviously won't go to the specifics, but there were a couple of hires that were like, they were really bad.
But how would you go about it if you're a founder who's not as experienced in certain fields? You do need to get those experts, right?
But
how would you do that differently?
I just wouldn't hire people. I get it through like meeting people.
Yeah.
And maybe it's another thing I tell younger self, although actually I was probably all right back then, but like sort of hustle and meet people. Like it's amazing what people will tell you.
Yeah.
Like I say with that example with Nick Wheeler, that was literally guessing somebody's email address
Yeah, I agree.
and just be nice to them. And like you can't get, it's so valuable. And you don't need to like buy people's experience. They'll just do it for like a coffee or just be nice to them.
Yeah.
So
do people reach out to you?
And anyone, I will always say yes to having a meeting with anybody that asks about anything.
Oh, do you?
Like for that reason, right?
Yeah.
If you sort of feel like you have an obligation.
Yeah.
But not many people do. Maybe it's just me.
Is there a good opening line, like for them to reach out to you?
Hi, Tom. You're always going to have to do things you've not done before and stuff you find really difficult.
Yeah.
Like even now, if there's something we can't do, like I'll try not to kind of buy it by getting somebody in. I'll try and do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Even if we like fuck up, but because you learn so much and it helps if you then go and hire somebody, you're much better informed about what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time that I've tried to hire someone to solve a problem, it's been a disaster.
Yeah, that's true. What about consultants?
We sort of have a few. I'm a bit allergic to them, but like, but I like them for like very, very, very specific things or skills that we literally don't have, where you can really define the role. If it's stuff like help us think through our strategy, but which we've tried to in the past, that's been a disaster.
Yeah.
But if it's
like McKinsey style.
Yeah, exactly. Because you've realised that's got to come from you. And I guess a lot of the stuff we've done about like brand, at the beginning I was like, I don't know anything about like brand. Just can I just get a brand person to like do it for me? And when we tried that, it's been a disaster. You realise there's people who can facilitate it, but it has to come from you.
Yeah. Sometimes the framework helps, but it does need to come from you. I agree. And with consultants, I found you need to have very specific need.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it could go like all over the place.
Yeah.
But I've had a couple of like consultants that were really good. One of our consultants, Lex, who consulted for you as well. She's our people director now.
Yeah.
So like it could work out.
Yeah, and she was brilliant for us. She brought the framework in that allowed us to kind of define our people strategy.
Yeah. With the consultant, they need to have the framework. They need to know exactly, they need to ask the right questions as well to define like exactly what you want if you don't know what you want.
But I would say like generally I've become more cynical about people's experience over time. Yeah. And now I'd much rather hire somebody with less experience, but more kind of passion and vigor and desire to learn.
I agree with you as well, because we do things so differently, and that's why we're successful, I dare say. So if someone comes from a big company, having done like, 20 years of something, they come with certain expectations, and that could be very disruptive to what you do.
And also completely culturally, but also like practically, like in the past when we've like tried, especially things like e-commerce, you speak to people who like, grew a e-commerce business in like 2007.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so different.
The world has changed. It's completely irrelevant.
Yeah, so different. And it needs to be relevant to your business as well, right? Because we both have omni-channel businesses. So we need someone who fit into that omni-channel strategy, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the future of Cubits and you personally? What would you like to do when you grow up? Where would Cubits be heading?
I'm 41 now, so I'm probably about halfway through my life, maybe. I don't exercise enough and I'm left-handed, so maybe I'm over halfway through my life. So, it's, I guess, what I'm going to do in the next 30, 40 years, hopefully. Like I still love Cubits. Like it's still, it's an indelible part of my life. We talk a lot about how can we try and build like a company and a brand and a business that could last for like 100 years, which not many businesses do.
Yeah, I love that.
And I would love for Cubits to like well outlive me. I don't know. Like it's just I don't have a plan. If I'm honest, like I would just like I think because Cubits did start with essentially as a hobby, but without any kind of aspirations, it's already within 2 years it exceeded all my expectations. It's already, now 135 people in 16 stores and like an international business, and like that's all amazing. But I think as it's grown, I've sort of gained more of a sense of, I guess, responsibility over it. And it sort of feels now, like I say, it's 10 years old, and it sort of feels like a 10-year-old. Like it feels like it's got its personality now, and it's like a little bit naughty, but you can kind of see what it can become.
Yeah.
And like I kind of want Cubits now to kind of grow and blossom into, like a Joe. Like I want it to become like a really, really kind of, have its own sense to grow much bigger than like me or who we are now.
Yeah.
And really become a beautiful brand and a beautiful company.
Yeah.
But entirely what that means, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a real founder mentality, isn't it? Like you want it to outlive you. You want it to be a great brand for years to come.
And then your relationship with it is so
weird. Yeah. What's your relationship with Cubits? How has it evolved?
I broadly love it, but there are times I absolutely hate it.
When do you hate it?
Well, it just sort of ebbs and flows. It's just like, if I look over the last like 10 years, there was the beginning, which was like unbelievably hard, like the hardest thing I've ever done. And I hated it. And I became like bitter about it. And it felt like a kind of noose around my neck. There's then bits where like it's so manic that you don't even know how to feel about it. But then afterwards you look back and you think, oh my God, that was amazing. And I didn't realize it at the time. I mean, it never gets easier. I think I always thought like, oh, if I get to 3 stores and then we'll hire a store manager, then it will be like easy. And then it's like new problems come and new problems come and new problems come. But yeah, I just sort of live it in a different way. I think that the challenge is though, if you're a founder, like how then like running a business, like sort of dovetails with founding a business. And like, because running a business is really, for me anyway, it's incredibly boring. Like
it's so different, isn't it?
A business it's boring.
Yeah.
So it's like, but there's some people that love it, but that's not me.
Yeah.
So the question is like, how can the stuff that I know that like gets me excited, how I can kind of shoehorn that into.
Yeah. So how do you
role.
separate that, being a founder and I guess being a CEO, running a business?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really.
How would you define those two roles?
Well, I guess with founder, it's all about kind of setting the vision and the culture, which is something that is also, it's never finished, right? You're always just like working, and it's this weird organic thing, and you change your mind all your time and deviate, and then, I think the CEO is just making sure that it's kind of solvent and everything's held together, all the sellotape's not coming off, and you bring the right people in, and you're like getting better at that, and hiring better people and developing people and all that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, I don't know. It's just like that part of it just changes constantly.
Yeah.
And some of it I love, and some of it I don't love.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Do you think there are unique sets of challenges as a founder CEO?
I think it's the kind of amorphous nature of those two roles which does make it really difficult. I'm jealous of friends who have businesses, who founded businesses and then appointed a CEO. Because I'm like,
how does that work though?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Do they work well?
I guess we're widening it. But there's loads of, I was speaking to a friend the other day who's got a company not far from here actually, and the two of them founded it, and they got a managing director within about a year. I'm probably similar to you, like too much of a control freak to ever do it like that early. And it would, the downside risk of it going wrong fills me with such dread that I've never really ever even got close to that really. But there's got to be a point, right? Where like, I mean, some people would say we're already past the point where they can get a better person to me than run the company, but that will definitely come.
Yeah.
Because also I know that like, you'll know it too. It was amazing starting a business that you you have to really confront your weaknesses. They stare at you in the mirror every
Yeah.
single day. You're literally,
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
anxiety, you're staring your anxiety in the face
Yeah.
all the
Yeah, and
time.
everyone will know, right?
Yeah. And so,
And they're
and s-
like talking about it.
and I know all the stuff that I'm like terrible at, and especially the sort of commercial aspects of it. They're not I'm just not interested in a lot of that. So there becomes a point where the balance changes from it being kind of brand and mission and purpose driven
Yeah.
to actually, we need to be a bit, I
Yeah.
don't know, have more
So what
rules
would
and
be your
checks and balances.
ideal setup? Like you'd be the founder and creative director,
Yeah,
and
but I
you'd have a
don't think
managing
I couldn't
director.
just be creative direct. The thing is, I like doing lots of things. Like I
Yeah.
do like, which I imagine if somebody else was running it, I would be really annoying because I'd getting involved in like product and designing, glazing and
Yeah.
fulfillment, and like
Yeah.
I'd just be constantly prodding them. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I say, I don't have a plan.
Yeah.
I know at some point the company there'll be much better people than me to run the company.
Yeah.
Like I don't know when that is or what form that will be, but like I do think it will just it'll work itself out.
Yeah.
It'll be pretty obvious when I'm redundant. everyone will tell me.
But there's always new problems, right?
Yeah.
For the founder to solve, always things to firefight, or just managing growth and change is a lot of work.
But I know where there's like a couple of years ago, we got approached by a company who like wanted to like acquire us, who were like a German listed on the stock market, really corporate. I remember speaking to them, and I was just like,
A
God,
glasses company. Yeah.
I was like, this is my idea of hell. Like one running a big company, but also being like listed on the stock exchange and having to deal with. I mean, I struggle enough dealing with 2 investors. Like that causes me a lot of like anguish. Dealing with thousands and thousands of investors on a publicly listed stock market, and having to wear a suit to like investor meetings, and that it's just like. So I know that there's an end point for me. It's just where between now and there, and how that dovetails into my 35 to 41 years remaining, like how that thing works. Don't know.
How do you feel when you see people wearing your glasses in the tube or the bus? Because I feel most excited when I see people wearing Astrid&Miyu, like in the tube specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Like, obviously, it depends who they are. But like, there's a bloke on GB News wearing them the other day, and I was like, I'm not happy about that. But I mean, I love it. I have a sort of weird feeling. So I never speak to people about it. Like, I find it like, I get like overwhelmed by it, so I don't. But it's really good. It's a nice feeling.
I mean, I don't speak to people about it either. I don't want to be creepy. I'm like, where are those earrings from?
Yeah. And it's weird, like, I've heard occasionally when I hear people talking about Cubits, that's a weird feeling when you hear them like at a bar or on a bus. And
you had an interesting experience in New York, didn't you?
Oh,
you met this guy at a bar.
Yeah. So I was with our retail director, Katie, and we were looking for sites, and like we'd done our little retail tour, so we thought we're going to hit the dive bars now. So we went in this dive bar, and it only took cash. So we're trying to get cash out, and there was we couldn't work out the cash machine. I think we'd had a few drinks by this point. And the bloke came over to us and was like, "Oh, can I help you with that?" And looked up, and he was wearing Cubits. And we were like, "Oh my God, this is ridiculous." So we told him that we worked at Cubits. So he then was like, "Oh my God, I love Cubits." I think he called them Cubits actually. And he was like, "Oh, they're amazing. they're from London, and it's a really cool brand." And he said, "Oh, and crazy thing, I emailed them recently, and I got a reply from this person called, hold on, let me get my phone. He was called Tom Broughton." And I was like, "I'm Tom Broughton."
Customer services
because I was doing a
agent,
customer service like takeover day, and he'd emailed me. And then he took us out for drinks that night, and like we've stayed in touch ever since. But like he still thinks
Does he know you're the founder, or
no,
like you haven't told him?
he still thinks we work in customer service, Kay and I. But
I
he
love
emails
that.
us every time. It's amazing. Yeah, that was such like beautiful serendipity and stuff like that. It's just like it's amazing.
Oh, that's so nice,
I love
isn't
it.
it? How many glasses do you have, by the way? Do you have a whole shelf at home?
I've
Glasses
only got
like
one
that.
pair, like at the moment.
What? Like, where do you keep all these like vintage?
Oh, I have
and,
I have
old
drawers
glasses?
of like my old glasses
Yeah.
and stuff that I still look at occasionally.
Yeah, so
but,
you have an archive.
but I wear the same frame every day.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
How often do you switch up your glasses?
Once a year. I don't change them very often, but the thing is, I love them so. And lots of people are like, "Why don't you treat glasses like shoes or other accessories like your jewelry? You could change them every day, and each day But to me, like glasses are such an indelible part of who somebody is. Like when I think of Jarvis Cocker, I think of his glasses. When I think of Woody Allen, I think of his glasses. When I think of Morrissey, I think of his glasses. Like there's such a, they're just they're an extension of like who you are. Also, if I had multiple pairs, because my eyesight's so bad, I'd just lose them all the time. I wouldn't know where to put them. So there's something nice about my glasses have two states. They're either on my head or by my bed. That's it. They don't really.
Do you always get the same shape when you switch them up?
No, not really. I mix them up a bit. I'm wearing this one at the moment. This is called Richmond, and I absolutely love it. And it's probably our worst selling frame, I would say.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure that's due to me wearing it or not. But like, I love it. It's a squash panto from the 1930s. Yeah, I love.
When I went into your Edinburgh store when I was there, one of your, I think it was your supervisor, who was wearing Barbie frames, and it looked amazing. That really made me want to get glasses.
Yeah, people. So everyone that joins, they have to make their own frame. I've spent making classes, and like some people go like wild because like glasses are quite like an austere. People generally the industry is quite conservative. We were at our like acetate supply last week in Italy, a place called Mazzucchelli, and we're like, so what's the new? What are there any new trends we should like be aware of? And he said, black, because he's supplying like most of the industry, and he's just like all people want to wear is black frames or like really dark turtle shell, and like
whereas before it wasn't. Did that evolve?
I think it's all. I still think the industry is really conservative. It's just I think people that want to come and work for us are probably a bit more. You know, they have a different relationship with glasses, and I still know. You know, like I said right at the beginning. You know, we started with an idea to try and make glasses for people that want to wear glasses. And I'm still aware that most people, or a lot of people who wear glasses don't really want to wear glasses. And I do think that's shifting over time. Yeah. But I still, my dad, he doesn't want to wear glasses. It's just not.
Why is that?
Well, I think people still see it as a sort of stigma. I think, especially in the UK, where it comes from a very medical background, and people grew up with NHS frames. Yeah. And like, you're bullied at school if you had NHS frames, and it's like, it's a sign of it's a sign of weakness.
Oh, is it?
And I think there's a reason. I'm always surprised when you look at like politicians. Basically, hardly any of them wear glasses, even though in reality they will 100% will need to, because I'm sure their stylists or their advisors are like, don't wear glasses because it makes you look, I don't know, inferior or weak. But that's why I just think it's it's so
that's
silly.
That's so interesting. For someone who doesn't wear glasses, what advice would you give me? Where do I start if I wanted to wear glasses without optical, I guess, actual glasses?
Well, I think that I always say like this. There's two things. One is like people like fit. You've got to get glasses that fit you, and that's the thing that people don't like. Generally, is so badly understood because opticians do such a poor job, and brands do such a poor job of explaining what fits somebody or not. But like, in the same way, what size your shoe is or shirt or ring should be, like it's exactly the same with glasses. So it's not difficult, but it just, just requires a little bit of research or asking someone's
What does that process look like in your store?
Yeah, well, the team are brilliant at that, right? So it's understanding, it's basically two things. It's about understanding the size and shape of your overall head, and then also your bridge fit. And that's really it. And you're just trying to get the lenses to sit in the right position of your eyes.
So they custom make a frame for me because I have a wide face with like low nose bridge. So,
but that's all doable. You just choose, and you can like bring the nose pad out, and you can add different. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So like the fit is maybe not the sexiest bit, but it's the bit you just need to get right.
It's so important.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, the thing is like when you read the little online blogs, and it's all like work out whether your head is a heart or a pineapple or a peach or whatever. It's all kind of nonsense, really. The general rule is like offset the geometry of your face. So if you've got a round face, go for a square frame, vice versa. Like, but really, it's just about working out what your like personality is, and that's what I love about a pair of glasses. You can put a frame on, and you can sort of feel like you're a different person. You can kind of hide behind them.
Like speaking of fit, you've got a proprietary technology behind your website, right? With the fitting one. Do a lot of people take it up? Is it accurate? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so I guess there's two bits. There's the virtual try-on, which we have on the site at the moment, which is like it's good. Like people use it a lot. It's one of the most popular things to the site. So it kind of superimposes the frame on your face. The problem is it doesn't understand sizing. So like it can't work out if your head is tiny or massive. It's just putting a frame on it. Whereas the bit that we're really excited about is the stuff that we have in our stores, which will hopefully roll out online, which uses like the true depth camera in like the latest generation of phones and iPads to measure your face.
So you're developing all of this in-house, all this technology.
Yeah, exactly.
What are your thoughts on AI?
Oh, well,
And
it's
how,
hit.
like, are you using any of them? Like, aside from this?
Yeah, so we're using
Yeah.
well, we're using a few things. So for that specifically, we're building and training our own deep learning, machine learning algorithm to try and recognize features in people's faces and then match that to a frame. And we're just sort of training that and learning that. I mean, it's here, isn't it?
I mean, we use AI here and there, mainly ChatGPT. So I'm starting this in-house incubator program within Astrid&Miyu staff, and I use ChatGPT to kind of create the program, and it was amazing. And like when I go on travels, I try to like
Yeah.
structure travel itinerary. So it's kind of like a PA.
Oh, you're using ChatGPT to actually create your travel itinerary?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I need to put my judgment into it
Yeah.
and see whether it works. And I used it to create creative direction for my husband's 40th birthday, which is coming up this month as well.
And what did it say? Oh, maybe don't want to ruin
Well,
the surprise.
I had a theme, so it's a PT Uomo theme. So I said like, oh, it's a 40th birthday party, PT Uomo theme. This is the budget. Give me some ideas, and it popped up. Like I didn't use any of those ideas, but it was like a good starting point to get my creative juices
I
flowing.
mean, it's mad. It's only going to get better, right?
Yeah, so it was kind of like my thought partner.
Yeah.
Finally, let's wrap up with a couple of advice for our listeners. What was the toughest thing you had to do throughout your journey?
The toughest thing, I mean, COVID was really tough, if I'm honest. Like, it was, we had to make 23 people redundant.
Oh, that's so hard.
Yeah, that bit was that was really, really tough. And do it all really, really, really quickly in a way that is kind of also, sort of respectful and fair.
Yeah.
So that was really tough. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's people-related stuff, having difficult conversations. I mean, I still don't really, doesn't come naturally to me.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. But you do realize there's kind of better ways to do it. It's never nice, but like, yeah, you can just learn to be more, I guess, empathetic.
Yep.
And I do look back, I still look back at some of the times where I haven't been I've been clumsy and not very empathetic. And I'm regretful.
Yeah. I think as founders, we have such huge sense of urgency and responsibility towards the business. Sometimes we forget about the people, don't we?
Yeah, completely.
And that's like, that's my biggest regrets, like as well. Tom, how do you keep yourself sane or less insane?
Less insane. It's a very good question. I guess it's like, practical stuff like, try not to work all the time. I think learn those benefit of like not working, go for walks, go jogging, try not to drink as much, all that kind of stuff. But I think like realizing that it's okay for stuff to go wrong helps me not go fully mental. I think at like the beginning, what I contributed to it going wrong by like, it's like, Lenny in Of Mice of Men. You kind of love it so much that you kind of killing it by kind of being overbearing. And I was definitely a bit like, and so just sort of knowing when it's like, all right to walk away. But like, I wouldn't say it's allowed me to be fully sane. My work-life balance is still not as probably it should be.
Do you send out random emails at 3 a.m. to your team still?
Who's asking? It's more like 5 a.m.
5 a.m. That's even worse.
No, I discovered. No, I am trying to do. You can do like a thing in Google now, Google Mail, where you can like schedule it.
So you schedule it for 5 a.m. instead of 9 a.m.
So I'm trying to do that. I think some people would still, I still struggle with that. I still wake up in the middle of the night and start working.
Yeah.
Like I just think that's part of like my identity. But I also do need to realize that. Well, I think there was a period where people thought that they had to like, if I emailed them at some stupid hour, that they had to reply. Which obviously it's on me not to do that.
Yeah.
But then also just like setting people's expectations that it's absolutely fine. Like ignore me. Like
I think it's hard though when you're the boss. My advice is you should have kids. Then you have no time and energy to send emails at 2 a.m. And one advice you'd give an early stage entrepreneur?
One piece of advice. I would say like work out why you want to do it. Like genuinely, because it does start feeding into, because then it helps you make decisions. Like if it is you want to do something because this is what you want your life to be, that's fine. If it's like you want the glory, that's also fine. If it's you want to build it and sell it and make money, that's also fine. If it's like, but I do think like there's probably not enough, like I probably wasn't honest with myself enough at the beginning about why I was really doing it, especially when it started like growing and it actually became my job. Like, and as a consequence, I made some like probably bad decisions because I probably got caught up in the time where it was like, oh, actually, I want to be like, you know, an entrepreneur and like, you know, build it, but, you know, and it'll be measured in how many £1 million it's making, all that kind of stuff. But I look back and I was like, I was just kidding myself because I probably got caught up in the kind of romantic idea of what an entrepreneur is in the 21st century. Whereas actually, I really just wanted like, and I still just want to start I just really want a nice glasses company. And like, that helps me make decisions when it comes to things about investment or who we hire or how fast we grow. And so, yeah, be really, really honest with yourself at the beginning and good things will follow.
Yeah, that's such good advice, Tom. So how can people follow you?
They go to cubits.com.
Yes.
They can follow Cubits on Instagram. We're not on Twitter anymore. Yeah, I'm trying to convince our brand team to get rid of Instagram, but they don't want to do that.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Connie.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you're listening or watching. You can follow me at Connie Nam, Astrid&Miyu at Astrid&Miyu, and Unboxed Instagram page at unboxed_founder confidential. See you next week.